Hey everyone. Yeah, I know I'm doing this first. Don't worry, I'll get to the One Piece review later. But right out of the gate, the plan Frey and Yakuto cooked up with this episode, with this chapter, was probably the biggest miscalculation I've ever seen. Like inventive, I guess to an extent they'll give them that, using Luzon's zombies as a smokescreen to cover their escape and make it seem like they were swallowed up in the mob. Like it's not a bad idea in theory, but it's almost like they forgot who they're dealing with, which is a being with godlike powers. So it was kind of inevitable this plan was going to backfire, and a little, for me, I'm a little bit surprised that the Yakuto couldn't see the flaws in this one. Like I'm sure it was I'm sure it's one of those things that was an intentional writing choice on Mashima's part, as not so soon after the failed attempt to escape God, he unleashes a mind-warped Saru to fight them. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the part of the chapter that hurt me a bit. I generally started to really like this guy, like, like Saru, so really like the character, and now he's more than likely gonna die. But I do like it's one of those things where the whole like putting them through that whole mess is the plan itself is a little convoluted in retrospect, but I do like the theme and message that he's imparting to them during this fight, which is live on, continue to fight, and don't let death and sacrifice of others be in vain. Like it's a rather poignant message for a series that really revels in death and killing characters, but definitely fits for Saru, who has presented himself as somewhat of a more of a more empathetic outsider among the faculty. Like he's one who genuinely fucking cares for his students. So it's like seeing him kind of be the standout in that crowd is like the demon who actually fucking cares. It's like it's showing that there is empathy in this demon world, so to speak. Now, with that said, God basically has the final word of the chapter by saying this fight will only have one survivor, and there's a multitude of things I can say on that. One being that if we take his words at face value, it looks very likely that Frey will still die, and while it could be just his conceited worldview is as talking, it is worth noting that Mashima left it vague how there's only going to be one survivor, so even if Frey and Yakuto both survive the battle with Saru, it doesn't mean they'll both survive a potential battle with God himself, because that gets the other weird thing I have about this chapter, which is despite obviously having still a handful of plot threads to tie up, it does feel like we're inching closer to the climax, or at bare minimum, onto the next stage of the story, where if I was to make a prediction of how things are going to go from here, I think we're reaching a point where God is probably going to completely drop the act and the story moves beyond the confines of school. And I kind of tend to believe the latter right now, because it does feel like things are reaching a with organizations like Ghost and whatnot popping up. It does feel like we are reaching a where like things are reaching a a boiling point to such an extent that like the story can't be contained in Dead Rock alone anymore. If it needs to move beyond Dead Rock. Of course, that still leaves the question of whether Frey survives this or not, and unfortunately that's unfortunately where I do have to circle back to the idea that I'd be surprised if Frey makes it out of this alive, whether it's Saru who kills her or God forces her to that conclusion by killing Frey himself after the battle with Saru. Like, there's only one way this goes, and I and it's it's funny. Only now am I kind of realizing why basically Hannibal the Betrayer is here. He's he's the one who's going to be Class F's replacement teacher after Saru is killed. Like Saru is going to die, and Hannibal's going to be the one who's their new teacher. Which, oh boy, that's definitely gonna give that itself, it's definitely gonna give a it's definitely gonna give a it's definitely gonna make things awkward for sure, to put it lightly, in the classroom with Now, and yeah, I feel like, and yeah, this is once again another chapter where I feel like Yakuto is having to learn the harsh lesson that he keeps underestimating God, which begs the question, how many times is he going to make this mistake before he fully wisens up to the fact that it's going to take so much more than plans and schemes to face this being known as God? And if I did have one critique about this series as a whole, it's that it sure is taking a long while for Yakuto to properly learn this lesson, and just how far, and just begs the question of how far is Mashima going to put Yakuto through this same cycle until he finally learns that God is not your conventional villain. Like, he is, in essence, an almighty, all-powerful being, or at least proven to be the closest thing to it. So, like, again, how many times is Yakuto going to keep underestimating God before he realizes conventional tactics are no longer good enough? Like, he has to think beyond that at this point. And but yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to spell subscribe button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight Rune signing off. Later, everyone.